In today's episode, we are thrilled to have a special guest, Shamala. Shamala is a passionate advocate for women's health and founder of a health tech startup focused on providing healthcare education and access, particularly for rural and marginalized women. Originally from Malaysia, Shamala now resides in San Francisco, and as a mother of two, she brings a wealth of experience and insight into the joys and challenges of motherhood. Join us as we dive into her unique journey and discuss important topics surrounding female health, motherhood, and the importance of self compassion. Hello, everyone. This is the Colors of Parenthood, and today we have a special guest, Shamala. I'm sorry, is that the way that we should pronounce your name?
Shamala.
Shamala. I'm so sorry, Shamala. Could you start by introducing yourself? Where are you from? Where are you at now?
Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you. I'm really, really excited about it. My name is Shamala. I'm originally born in Malaysia. And over the course of life, I've lived across a few countries in Europe. And right now, I live in San Francisco in the United States. I run a health tech startup. We bring healthcare, education, and access with a strong focus on rural and marginalized women across the globe, and in general, overarching female healthcare education as well. I have two boys, they are aged 8 and 11, and I also have a dog. And that's who I am.
Amazing. The topic about female health is so important. It's a passion of mine. So thank you for doing that. But that now going to the topic of our podcast, tell us a bit more about your motherhood journey. So you said 8 and 11. What was it like before when you were pregnant? Like all of the story that you want to share.
Sure, I think I came into motherhood late, which is becoming more and more common with women focusing on careers. And as long as you're able to, it's great. And if you're not, make sure you get the things that you need to do for whenever you want to have children. It's a different topic we can always talk about. I came into motherhood late, and every stage of the way, I often felt like, oh dear, am I going to do anything wrong to this baby because I'm coming into late? So at that time, um, while my pregnancy went well and everything that came with it went well, there was always this slight element of fear along the way. I'm also trained in genetics. So it was a case of, oh, let's make sure everything is going to be okay. So it was laced with a little bit of fear. And then I ended up having an emergency cesarean, which really threw me out. And the recovery period was tough. So it was tough. And that just made me drop into this whole vacuum very much on my own. And that was just with my eldest kid. That in combination with the fact everyone just expected me to be able to pick up and move on very quickly. And with that, I made some very quick decisions. I went back to work when my baby was just 4 months old and Jan was 4 months old. I went back to work part time already because I felt that was at that time, and I forgive myself for decisions that I made at that time because that's what I knew then. So for me, that was what was important to do at that time. And always the expectation around me was, oh my God, she's so strong. She'll be able to pull this off. Between Jan and Niels is my second one. Um, we tried to have children again, and I miscarried twice. And something that someone said still rings in my head. At that time, um, everything that people say goes and sits somewhere else, and I don't have my usual rational self to like ninja thoughts away. Someone said, oh, as you're growing older, maybe you have to just face facts. And that just stayed in me. Stayed that, I was trying to do something and it was to do with my age. And that was really rough. And I got pregnant with Niels by just like, I had it just happened. And I was very grateful. And that pregnancy again was just constantly like, am I going to lose this baby? Am I going to lose this baby? And then when he happened, he happened. The thing is, all the time, the thing that struck me was I had two miscarriages. I'm reasonably educated, potentially not so necessarily, but you know what I'm trying to say. And I have means. It wasn't that, and I was in among the world's most developed places. And for someone like me to still go through my miscarriages, not get all the info that I should get, and have this entire medical profession move ahead while I'm still grieving was just shocking. Now, as I look back, which is among the main prompters about why I went into the healthcare education space, it's like, wow, if a woman can be extremely educated, live in a globally very well developed place, have the means, have money, and still feel isolated, what more? Anyone else after that? This is a very long philosophical answer to your question, but that was my sort of journey with motherhood.
Yeah, it really struck me what you said about also like when you first had your first child and everyone was expecting you to just be back to normal as you were really quickly. um, that is shocking by itself, like people not considering the fact that you're getting just an absolute new role in your life, a new identity in a way, with new priorities and new values. And what you said about the miscarriages, like the process that you're grieving, I think probably people in the really dynamic workplace, they don't empathize. What did you felt like? Were people not really understanding?
One of the things that struck me immediately was it's not that I'm surrounded by people who are not empathetic. I am very gifted that and privileged that I have among the most loving people in my life, like from all angles of it. I am one of those who walk proudly in the world and state that. One of the things that was shocking to me, even though I'm trained in it, that miscarriage is actually so common. The rate is incredibly common, and when I then talk to people, when tell people, everybody's like, oh yeah, I had a miscarriage too, I had a miscarriage too, I had a miscarriage too, I knew about her miscarriage. I'm like, wow, all these miscarriages, and people just never mentioned it, which made me feel like this absolute loser for like, oh my god, I turned up here and had one. But the reality is it's very common. No one ever talks about it, right? And because also no one ever talks about it, and because they've also gone through it, it's sort of like, yeah, you'll get over it and you can move on very quickly. I liked what you said. You brought it back to that grieving point, which you picked up from. The thing is, grieving is not a bad thing. It's actually a very important thing to do. It's important to grieve. And even when you become a mom and you're super excited about this new role that you've landed in this motherhood, one of the things that I knew that was happening to me at the same time was that I was grieving for the woman that I was no longer ever going to be again. That was just something that was going to be. And it's fine that I had taken on this new role and am doing all these things. But it's also important to know that you will forever grieve that person that you once were. And it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a thing that I've talked with many women, and also from a psychological view with other psychologists that I've spoke with. It's so important to understand that you can grieve without feeling guilt also, because I mean, even becoming a mom, the thing that you grieve is your old self without being a mom, and that's not a bad thing, as you said. um I also think what you said before that about the miscarriages, um you're saying like people are normalizing it because it's really common, but that doesn't get away like with the fact that you're grieving and the sadness and the process of adapting to the fact that you've had this view idea of your newborn, etc., and it didn't happen. So that can be disappointing, really hurtful. And I I don't know. I'm just kind of sad that people are not really sharing. That
People
they,
should, and that's also, it's a physiological thing. Your body goes through, you go through this entire change in your body. It gets prepared to have this baby, change changes everything hormonally, and then one day to the next, again everything happens. So there's also like this huge physiological activity that's going on. So it's not just purely here, it's all
yeah,
over. And I think that's something that's very, very important to hold on to. And every single individual's pain and grief is valid, and it is that at the moment. I'll give you a bit of insight. So I talk very openly about my miscarriages because I really truly believe that talking about it and making sure that even if one other woman, if she has a miscarriage and she's able to turn and tell me, oh, I had one too, and you talking about it openly made me feel okay. I just would love for that to happen. My, my Niels, my younger one, always comes up to me and say, and he likes hearing about it. He wants to hear about the two that did not make it. And we talk openly about these babies that did not happen. And then he has a weird question. He's like, but if you had had them, would you still have had me? Like, it's funny that way. Anyway, normalizing it, that's important.
I think normalizing all of the serious issues that happen all over the world is important because that makes people talk also. When you normalize it, you're not afraid of speaking about the serious topic that can
Hmm.
make someone uncomfortable. Um, Now, I would like to ask you also about your postpartum period. So, with your first one and with your second one, was it really different?
It was really different for me. I think with the first one, I was 38 when I had my first child, just for context. And at that time, it was still not that normal for women to have kids that much later. And my husband and I, we wanted to um, do it very much on our own. So we also told our families, let us go through this, and we'll figure it out along the way. And um, and we did. We went through it. There's so many things we didn't know, and we were learning quickly. And with Jan, my first one, my postpartum journey was, I don't even know have a word for it. So what happened was, I was in labor for about 20 hours, and then we went into a C-section because they realized there was an anatomical anomaly. And so there I was recovering from this massive C-section after 20 hours of labor. So I was really exhausted. And then we were about to leave the hospital. I think it was day 5, and the woman, the pediatrician who was checking the baby in order to leave, said, "Oh, there's something not right with the baby's heart." That line and that what she said then, like, sort of set the tempo of my postpartum recovery. Because by day 10, everything was fine with the baby. We got a cardiac pediatrician to check. Um, a pediatric cardiologist to check the baby, and everything was cleared. But those 5 days between the time what she told me and the time when the pediatric cardiologist told me the baby was fine was among the scariest times of my life. I cannot remember any other setting where I was just as afraid. In combination with the hormones and everything else, plus not having family around and feeling very alone, that really sent me on this path of like, wow, I don't know how to do this, and I can't do this, and I didn't know how to ask for help, and the only thing I could do then was to say, the one thing I know how to do is actually work. So I found my comfort that way, and that set the path of how it was just. And any single time, any kind of fear, bad news, I would go back to that 5 days of that. Long and short of it, when I had my second baby, my mom came to visit and stayed with us. And I will forever be grateful for that. Just simply because in the morning, she would make me a cup of tea and some toast and say, I'm going to hold the baby, go take your shower. And that's all I needed. I didn't any kind of magical whatever, but just that. Just that. I'm going to hold the baby, go for a walk. Like, that's it. So two of these had these two different things. The one thing that for me was very clear was the expectation that was always placed on me that I have got it all together, that I'm going to round it all together, and I'm going to get this going. When my second son was 4 months old, I planned out an entire volunteer trip to India for 4 months. So we left when he was 6 months old and did it. When I look back now, It sounds like what a crazy person would do. And I realized it's postpartum hormones. I'm really glad we did it. It was life changing for everybody. But that level of expectation that I saw from what was around me and what I put on myself, it stopped me now, like, almost 10 years later, now 8 years later. I'm so good at setting boundaries now. I'm so good at telling everyone around me exactly how I feel about it at that very moment. Like, this is too much. I won't do it anymore. I'm good about this. Let's move on. I've learned it. I didn't have this knowledge back then.
Yeah. I can only imagine like having this. I started wondering actually your expectations, as you're saying. Where do you think they're coming from? From like society, from what you've seen, or from like what you felt about yourself as a what you saw that you need to be as a woman overall?
I think it's just so many layers of paper cuts along the way. And I think no one around me, in all the love for me, expects anything from me, right? Like, really not. And I just think it's that, that 5-year-old brown girl that's still stuck deep inside, that constantly feels under pressure to overperform, to overachieve, to always be the most able, to be the one who's not tired, to be the one who's able to finish the race. It's just a constant thing that's deep in there. I'm just so much more comfortable in my skin now, literally, that it's fine to not be the one who held it together, and to not be the one who, to be able to tell my family, my children, like, I'm really tired. I don't want to do this now.
Yeah, setting boundaries, as you said.
It's very
Um,
important when you have a newborn. And if you're on your own, there's you can't set that boundary. If there's a crying baby, there's a crying baby. You can't tell it like, no, I don't feel like feeding you now. You cannot. But
yeah,
what I could have done is talk to my husband and say, I'm not able to. I need you to step up here. Or if you're not able to, we need to get the help. And that help needs to step up here. But anyway, it was a spiral.
and because you just said your husband did he have parental leave also?
With my first one, the parental leave, or how he took it, was just very limited. And then later he took it on, and I was really grateful for it. And it's just really beautiful, the relationship that he formed with the baby at that time. And with the second one, he had his 4 months of parental leave, and we went on India on this crazy adventure. Now when I look back, I'm glad. There's no part of me that says, oh, I wish he had spent more time with the kids. Not at all, because I think we somehow or rather equalized it. No, we acknowledge that I do more in the household than he does with the kids, but it's all of us are fully aware, both of us are fully aware of where we are in that equation, and no one feels resentment towards the other. I think that's very important. Like, I'm fully aware of where he is in this picture and how much he does with them, and he is aware of the same with me.
Yeah, that's definitely very important to not have resentment and the communication of I do this and this and that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um I'm always also wondering did you expect like your roles to be that different, or were you surprised when you have your firstborn that the dynamic of partnership changes, etc.?
It definitely did. You hear all versions of it, and you're going to like look at all versions of it, right? And then you're going to find something that works out for you at that time. And I think how it worked out with us, it was the best for that era. And I think we both were good at it, that it was the long game. That was one part of parenting, and there's so many other parts of it. There is this era of this 8 and 11-year-old boys parenting era, where he actually has to step in differently for them, because we need this role modeling for young men who are growing up in the world. So it's a different thing. I can't do it anymore, because I can't, like, in the era of the 0 to 2, yes, I could put them on my breast and breastfeed them as much as I needed to, and I could step in. So I think It's hard to see it when you are there in that 0 to 2 era. But I'm glad that my husband and I could see the long game, and it's showing itself now.
Yeah, I don't think I've had this perspective also before. People telling me the 0 to 2, and now when you have like more older children, this is such a different period and phase. They are going into the teenage world also after a bit, which is also such a huge, I can only imagine, a challenge for parents. So are you working full time now? Is he working full time now? And how are you managing with having two kids?
Right, we both work a lot, and we are very happy and comfortable with that as well. So I think no matter what its decisions, we have the privilege to be able to say that and do that, right? And we acknowledge that. I'm a big believer, more so than ever, is that you need to acknowledge that you need the support where you need it. Be if you can, and hope to God that you can. You pay for that support that you require. And the most important thing, don't let anybody judge you about the fact that you're using support. I am so done with, like, so we have somebody who drives our boys to their soccer practices and to their taekwondo classes, because I can't. Like, it's just unreasonable to expect somebody who works full time to be able to drop off at 3:30 and run to do this. It's just not normal. There are many who have flexibility and can do that. I can try, but it's at the expense of something. So, in order to give everybody the best life that they can in our household, we pay for somebody to help us out. And it's fine. And I won't listen to it. There are mothers who come up to me and say, "Oh, it's really important to me that I'm the one who drives and I get to listen to all the conversations." I'm like, "Good for you. Excellent. Well done." But maybe the way I engage with my children and how I choose to be present for them is just different. And I'm not going to play the guilt game.
Yeah, that's really important. I've heard so many women sharing that mom shaming is such a thing.
It's
That,
incredible.
yeah, and
And
did you
there's no
experience it?
end to it, right? There's no end to it. So it's sort of like, oh, I only like I cook freshly cooked, like homemade organic meals until the dead of the night. And I'm like, good for you. Like, very good. And I think this part of it, that shaming bit, for whatever reason, whether someone does it deliberately or you hear it secondhand and you let it hit you, it is an extension, this is what I believe, from that postpartum period as well. Because when you are going through this massive hormonal change, at least for me, I can only speak for myself. When someone says, "Oh, my baby always just slept through the night and never ever did anything, like from day one we came home from the hospital, he just slept through the night," and it went and it sat there in my head, like, "Oh my God, how did their baby sleep through the night and mine wakes up every hour?" Like, and it just goes on and on and on. What I know now from this side of it is what people say and how they do it, it's a reflection of their own insecurity. It's never mine. And it's up to me to decide whether I need it to become my insecurity or not.
And also, definitely, you know the best of what's your child's like sleep schedule, if he can sleep or not. There's so many
On
different
that day, right?
children.
It changes non-stop. So there's nothing that's permanent about it. Like, they sleep in a certain way for a few days, hooray, and then it goes to become something else. Boo. So there's no permanence to it. But I think women are put under so much pressure to perform in particular ways. It's just really every newborn mother that I see, the first thing I always tell them is, "You're doing a great job." Because you know what? You are. Like, you birthed a child. Like, you're doing a fabulous job. Just that is enough. You don't need to do anything more. So I'm so done with it. And society just you need to breastfeed. You need to only feed organic vegetables. You need to not feed vegetables. You need to do this. There's just so much, and there's so much rhetoric. And the one thing that I remember hearing is, the best advice is just don't listen to any advice.
It's too much. It sounds too much, and probably if you don't do anything, if you don't do something specific in the postpartum period, as you said, because of hormones, you're most sensitive, and you just put it on yourself. Like, I'm failing as a mom because I can't breastfeed. I've heard that before also, and with the breastfeeding part is also such a cycle. When you're anxious, you can't breastfeed, so it's really important that you stay calm, but a lot of things are saying to you, stay calm, breastfeed, don't be anxious, but be also perfect. It sounds a lot.
Exactly, like you look like a model, but also make sure you. I think, yeah, we all present in whatever we need to present. It's just one of those things. It happens, and it all happens so fast, and it's then wrapped up, and then you forget. But that's the success of humanity needs it so that we all continue to have children. Um, the societal pressure is incredible, and then you hear all the varied stories. And I know we all like to watch the stories and listen to the stories of perfection and how it all unfolded. We like it. We like the rush, the happy rush that comes from it. Nobody wants to, be involved in the sadness or in the difficulty, but that is actually what needs to be shared, and that's what needs to be told.
Yeah. it's there is a huge obstacle and a barrier that I can see with moms, is that everybody's speaking about what they should do, even between themselves, like a mom to a mom, and they're comparing each other, but they're so afraid to speak up that they need support. So def- I the solution is missing still, like how to help moms, because they don't feel okay with speaking out loud even between other moms. It's only when they're anonymous, for instance.
I agree with you, and I find that comes in so many layers in itself. One, admitting that you need help and that something is wrong already is like a reflection of yourself. And then you have to look at who's around you that you're going to go and ask help for. If you ask it and they say, "Oh, my kid did this, my kid," then you already know you're now going down this spiral of what's not going to work. And then you see a lot of people projecting themselves onto you. "Oh, I did this and did this and did
Yeah.
this." And you know what? It's because they went through that with their child. It's not applicable to you. And it's hard to make it through the muck. And asking a question in a forum or something, it's just, I remember this. There was like a little like a cafe clutch. I don't even know how to it's like a mom's group, okay, for the newborn, so in that particular cohort. And you all got together, and I still remember sitting there, and this one mom, and I'm sure she didn't mean it at all, but she just said it, "You know what, my baby's just so relaxed because I had a vaginal birth, and that's the best thing for my baby." She said this in a room where many others had cesareans, and everybody, that's another thing, right? The breastfed, not breastfed, then
Yeah.
vaginal
Yeah.
birth versus cesarean, and everyone's sitting there, and I was like, and I still think about this. I still remember her face. I still remember everything about it. It's been almost 12 years now. And I'm like, how does one say that? Like, how do you do that in a room full of people, like where you stamp your superiority, which is unacceptable in any other circle? Nobody ever turns up in a conversation and says, "I'm a male, so I'm better than everyone at this." Nobody says that, right?
Yeah. I can also see that in many forums here in Bulgaria. For instance, a mom shared that her babe she's really anxious during nights because she's afraid of something happening to her baby, and she asked for help, like, anonymously. And everyone in the comments were more or less like, the same happened to me, it will pass. And just like, it's okay that she feels like she's not alone, but also we talk about actually validating that she feels like that. And me as not being a mom still, and also from a psychological point of view, just as a psychologist and psychotherapist, I just saw it and I was like, this is devaluating a person's feelings and cry for help, because if you just say it will pass, that's not actually, that's not helping. Um,
I really like your perspective on this and what you say that from a psychological point of view, and it brings something else up. Um, One of the things that recently I talked a lot about, like especially living in the US, I'm more aware of the vocabulary. So, like as a woman of color living here, I call out microaggressions as they're called, right? Because these are just things you've gone through, and the moment you hear it, you're like, ah, I'm gonna, talk about this or fight this back. To me, it reflects back to what you're saying. You cannot invalidate what someone feels because what they feel is true. You cannot walk up to them and say you got to just suck it up and do it, because that is incredibly unhelpful.
yeah.
um and I see it a lot with my kids now on the other end of the spectrum. When they come home and they say, oh, that felt bad or that feels terrible, I cannot tell them you're going to forget about this when you're 20 years old, because you have to say, I'm so sorry you feel terrible about it today. What can I do for you now? Can I hold you? Can I let's talk about it or dissect it, and then leave it be then from that point onwards. And that happens to moms a lot, like, oh, they will stop doing this automatically. I'm like, great, but when it's happening to you, you're 100%, it's happening to you at that time.
Yeah, being in the present, experiencing it now.
You can't see
Mm.
tomorrow, and that's the thing about parenting that's really hard. It's hard to see the tomorrow, and it's hard to see a week later.
But I believe that being in the present is more important. I mean, it's good to see in the future, but anxiety usually pops up if you only think about what will happen, what if this happen, what if this happens. And
Oh, I completely agree. I think my point was more, in that moment when, say, you're clouded by sadness and you're deep in the depths and all you want to do is cry, do it. And the thing is, then you can't, you have to have somewhere deep, somewhere in you to know that tomorrow is going to be different. It's going to be different. Slightly different, very different, who knows, but doesn't matter.
yeah,
There is something else that's coming up. And I found that when I was deep in the depths of that, I couldn't see and I couldn't tell myself that tomorrow is going to be different or tomorrow is going to be better.
yeah, I think here we talk about really like a sad point of like where you don't see an end or an exit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we have hope, we usually believe when we wake up it's going to be better, even if we feel
All
down.
different, right? It doesn't matter. Like right now, I know the one thing that I can say, and I only speak about myself, like in the moment when I visit what I'm feeling because of whatever that's happening around me, all I can tell myself is, after I sleep and I wake up, tomorrow I'll have a little bit more information on, and I'm going to be just a different, slightly different person tomorrow. At the best, I'm one day older. Like, but there's something else that is, I have to have that. Like it's not an end all and be all. I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but the ability to take all that, sometimes when you're in all of that, you don't know that you need help. So maybe even acknowledging, like, tomorrow I actually need to get that help. Mm.
I think that's why also there's a saying to sleep on it. Then
Yeah, and
you
then you spend the whole night lying down there not sleeping on it. But the sleep definitely helps. I'm such a big proponent of it. I slept so badly with my two children, like it was so damaging. That's another part of it. They were both bad sleepers, in combination with the fact that I breastfed extensively and I felt I really should breastfeed them whenever they want to eat. And I'm happy that it went through, but what it meant was I just became such an erratic sleeper. And I
and
breastfed them for long. And so for like a good 6 years of my life, I just became an erratic sleeper.
mm, and also many moms say to me that they felt like their body is just for that because you're on a call. I mean, you call that they're hungry, so you give your body for that, and this makes a lot of women feel really stressed and not like themselves. Like they just lose themselves in the role of being a new mom, but like their identity as a woman, of what they want to do, what they like, it just goes behind. And many of them experience some sort of like parental burnout, like being the perfect mom.
I mean, it's I think if you were to like talk to every single woman, they'll all talk to you about all the different times where it wasn't good, like because it goes through phases. And there are days
Yeah.
that you're the winner and you're like, oh my God, today was a great day. I managed to shower. My hair looks okay. Like, uh, yeah, I feel like a human. I had one full conversation without it being interrupted. And that feeding thing is a very interesting point because, yeah, you breastfeed nonstop if you are able to breastfeed, or you're doing the bottle feeding, and it is what the human baby animal needs. It just needs to be fed nonstop. And I always bring it up again now. There are times when it's vacations or something. I'm going like, it feels like a line production where all I'm doing is just preparing food, and it's just different. It's more complicated now compared to like the breastfeeding era.
Yeah. um
It's a funny one, not a funny one, like funny haha, like our whole identity. I'm so grateful that I have the honor of being having taken on the motherhood with that. And with that, there's also like when I look back and I go like, oh my goodness, but I could climb a tree and I couldn't now, or I have a lot of admiration for the but we must not get stuck with the big stories. I know women. I recently met a mother of a newborn, and she went, "I'm so tired, but Serena Williams gave birth and then went back to win a Grand Slam." I went like, there's one Serena Williams in the world,
yeah.
right? Like we are all not Serena Williamses. She is there to do a phenomenal job because she's that one power superhero.
That's really tricky. I think that's really tricky for any sort of identity role that you take. For me, being as a 25-year-old, listening to people that have been 26 on their most highest career point of, or the pressure is everywhere if you just focus on the people that are superheroes.
The superheroes are there. They are there to help us have something to envision towards, or something to like aspire to be, or somebody to watch, just watch, like and also to think for a second, wow, that type of superhumans do exist. Like, isn't it great? Like, at least that's how I look at it. But you know what? We cannot wake up and become that tomorrow. Like, it's also okay that we're not.
Hmm.
Maybe
Yeah.
make a very I know these days I make, when I have my list of gratitude, I just make sure it's like a very small thing, and then it's easier. Let the standards slip a bit.
I wanted to ask you also, when we talked about mom shaming, I started thinking many moms are also feeling that people are judging them because they go back to work really early. Did you had that also?
Yeah, I mean, and when I look back, it's just a huge element of it. I was very lucky when I went back to work early. I had an insanely amazing, supportive boss, Pat,
That's good.
um and she also had like a baby late, and so a lot of things that I could lean on her for. So that helped a lot. Um, Societal pressure, right? Like women who are like, oh, I'm going to take like 18 months off and then go vacation around the world. I couldn't see that in myself. That wasn't me. And even at that time, I took it. I was like, I'm brave. I got this. And I'm
Mhm.
glad.
Yeah.
Um, and I stand by it, because you know what? I'm still the mom who's now still, I have this opportunity to keep going on vacations with them, or keep doing what I need to do with them. It's different. And maybe if I could just diverge the point a little bit, if you don't mind, you have to be, or for me, I had to acknowledge that the different stages of motherhood are different, and some maybe I didn't like as much, and that's actually fine. I love the stage of motherhood that I'm at, because you get something back. You get in conversations, they're
Yeah.
reading, they're humans. um And that makes me look forward to what's coming up as well. I know that the teenage years are going to be rough, but the simple things that I'm getting back now, it's just very different when they're babies. And yeah, they're cute and they're cuddly and chubby. And I know some people are attracted to that, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I think that's also with chapters of life. I'm really excited to grow old overall.
Mhm.
You have so many different chapters in your life, and the same is with motherhood. I mean, that's the parallel that I'm making, because you said it's so different when they're newborns, and now when they're toddlers, and afterwards when they're teenagers, when they're students. It's a huge process of you being next to your children. I I'm quite excited to have this chapter also, having all those information,
Mhm.
because I feel really blessed that I'm informed with what can happen with the different parts of societal pressure. Speaking with all of my guests, it's really I'm really grateful that I have it. I feel more like I would say not scared that much, because I think the shock of not being prepared is the thing that definitely many moms are saying, like, I didn't know that I can have c-section, for instance, and I didn't know what can happen because I was planning the natural birth.
Mhm.
And the
I
fact,
would say vaginal birth. Like I think the you can be like best prepared, right? And it's I think it was 2 nights ago I played the playlist that I had prepared for the birth. And obviously it's like a 1.5 hour long playlist. God only knew I went then listened to it 20 times over in my 20 hours of labor, and I was tired of it. I was like, I'm not listening to this anymore. So you can make the best plans. And most part it's gonna happen. It is gonna go. And maybe every now and then a little something slightly different, and that's also fine.
yeah. As our time is coming to an end, I wanted to ask you one last question, which is, so if you can now speak to yourself when you were 28, for instance, when you're younger and you were going just now to this motherhood journey, being a parent, what advice would you give to yourself, to your little self?
Be much kinder to your own self. That's the only thing I will say, because I think this is the advice I would give to my younger self, and this is actually the advice I would give to anybody listening at all points in your life. Be kinder to yourself and have a lot more self compassion. You're making the best decisions and choices with what you have now. So just take that, be confident that that's what you have, that's what you have in your pocket, in your whatever, and you're going to make the best decisions based on that. So be very, very kind, be very, very self-compassionate. That's the advice I would give my younger self and to anyone else listening. And I definitely will give you that advice as well, if I may. Be very kind to yourself, because the world throws so much at us. And if we cannot be kind to ourselves, we cannot expect anyone else to be.
Hmm. Yeah. That's a really good advice, and thank you so much. I started thinking, like, also the fact that it just makes so much sense that you have the resources that you have, you can't have something else at the moment, so you do what's best for you in any point of life. And but because with moms, I can definitely hear them saying, like, they're really afraid that they're doing something wrong, or they're afraid that something will go wrong, and that means that they're failing as a mom, and the cycle goes. And the fact is that you know best for yourself, because you're the expert of yourself. You live your life and you know your child the best. And it's good that people say it more and more, because I think it's best to hear it. It really helps. People think, oh, it probably knows, like, she knows that I think that. I think we should always say it out loud when we want to support someone. It's always best to
Absolutely.
hear it.
Absolutely. I do agree. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for sharing this insightful, the whole journey that you had. It was really interesting for me, and I really think it will be really interesting for our audience and really helpful. So thank you so much for being here.
Feel free to reach out. Take care of yourself.
Bye bye.
Bye.